Okay, so what we're talking about today is when you are the negative and you're against the case, what is your strategy? So we're going to talk in general, and we're also going to talk about the specific arguments on this year's topic about disarming the police. So main things to keep in mind is first, remember your job isn't to tell the judge about a new plan. You're not saying we should go retrain the police or we should get rid of the police or we should do whatever. Your only job is convince them, the judge, that passing the plan will cause more harms than benefits. At the end of the debate, the judge should sit back, look at all the arguments from both sides, and decide, would passing the plan cause more benefits than harms, or would it cause more harms than benefits? That's it. That's all they have to do. And that you can do that by attacking the affirmative plan's arguments strategically. And that's what we're going to talk about today is what is the strategy you can use. So when we talk about attacking the affirmative's arguments, remember, we're not attacking the affirmative team, we're attacking their arguments. But when we're attacking their arguments, you don't need to beat every single part of their argument. It's not like you have to go to inherency and uniqueness and solvency and impact and read a bunch of evidence and make sure you crush them on every part of the argument. No, you don't have to do that, right? Because they're trying to use all those parts to tell a whole story. So if you just identify one or two of them and you say, that doesn't actually make sense. That part of the chain doesn't make sense. It's like taking it apart and taking that chain apart. It no longer connects. It doesn't make sense anymore. So you don't have to win every single argument. You only need to win the arguments that tell the judge that passing the plan is a worse idea than not passing the plan. So we're going to look at the affirmative story. And if you listen to the last two videos, 103C and D, then the last two evidence videos, then you will have some sense about this. But even if you didn't, we're going to go over it pretty briefly here today. And then what you need to do after that is once you've decided where you want to attack the affirmative, you actually have to prepare to answer each advantage and have your answers ready. You shouldn't go into every debate just sort of like going off the cuff and just saying stuff and being like, this debate, I'll say this. The next one, I'll say this. You should have a plan before every debate, right? You should be ready to execute that plan. So let's talk about answering advantage one, which is stopping gun violence. So the affirmative basically says, the reason there's so much gun violence in the world today is that police have a bunch of guns, which they use to sometimes shoot people. And also, because the police have guns, other people feel like they need to get guns to make themselves more protected. And since the plan takes away guns from police officers, then police will no longer shoot people. And also other people won't feel like they need to get guns. And therefore, there will be less shootings from police and in society in general. So that's the affirmative story. As the negative, you have a couple different options. You can attack their uniqueness, which your answers are basically going to say something like, a bunch of civilians already have guns, and it's not because the police have guns, they have them because they want them. You can attack their solvency, which is going to say, if you take guns away from the police, it's going to make more society more unsafe, either because criminals will be more unsafe or people will just buy more guns to help protect themselves. Or you could attack the impact, and attacking the impact, you're going to say something like, shootings are relatively rare, and therefore taking guns away from the police is not going to really decrease the amount of shootings. And also, guns are so ingrained, so much a part of American culture, that this one plan is probably not really going to do very much to change the amount of shootings that, gun violence that happens in America. So you could say all three of these, or you could pick only one of them. My suggestion to you is the reason I have solvency starred is because solvency is the only place that has an actual turn where it says that passing the plan will make the world a worse place than it is right now. So I think if you're answering advantage one, you have to really make sure you have some sort of argument that says that the world will be worse off, not just that the plan won't solve the problem. And solvency is the only area that does that, because it says, if we pass the plan, civilians will go get guns or criminals will go get more guns. Things will be more violent than they currently are. And you can use your uniqueness answers and your impact answers to help boost that argument and help say, maybe there is a problem right now, but the problem's going to get worse if we take guns away from police officers, because like civilians will have more guns or something like that, or civilians will be more likely to use guns. And that is going to help you answer this advantage, right? So your story is going to be, you like nobody on the negative is necessarily disagreeing that shootings are bad or that they don't happen. But when you look at things broadly, is the plan likely to increase gun violence or decrease gun violence? Is it going to increase violence in society or decrease it? And I think the negative can make a strong argument that based on the culture of America, based on like the gun-centric culture and sort of the fear that Americans have in general of, violence and criminals, that Americans are more likely to buy guns for themselves, for their families, for their jobs, than, if they're more likely to buy guns for protection if the police didn't have guns. And that is almost certainly more dangerous than the police having guns themselves. So I think the negative can make that argument. I think that's the negative strategy here. And ultimately, as a rookie, if you don't like that, if you're against this advantage and you don't like that strategy, your best bet is to move up to novice and start using the disadvantage, because the disadvantage is going to give you answers that you want to make, more powerful answers that are outside the case. So that's beyond the scope of this video. But if you don't really love, whether you love them or not, if you don't really agree with these answers or you don't find them persuasive, I mean, that's okay, right? Debate is all about testing ideas, learning new things, trying things out and see how they work. But if you end up just feeling like this isn't for you, move up to novice. Try the arguments in novice. You'll get a whole new set of arguments that maybe fit your perspective a little bit better. Okay, and then work with your partner and coach to see what combination of arguments makes sense for you on this advantage. Because even if you are novice or JV or varsity, you still have to answer the affirmative case to some degree, right? So figure out which of these answers helps you tell the story you're trying to tell as the negative. Okay, advantage to police legitimacy. Again, let's say you're rookie, all you're limited to is the evidence packet. Again, you can attack uniqueness, solvency, and impact, or you could just attack one or two of them. Again, in this one, the only turns in this packet are on the impact. So they say that if you increase police legitimacy too much, then the police will not be held accountable when they do bad things. And so obviously they'll be more free to do bad things and there'll be no consequence and it'll be pretty bad, right? So that is the offense-based argument you have here that explains why doing the plan might result in a worse world than not doing the plan. And it's more than just saying the plan's not a good idea. It's saying the plan would be bad. It would cause bad things to happen. Your answers to uniqueness basically say that, the vast majority of society do trust the police. They think they're a good institution. And those people who don't trust the police, they mistrust the police for reasons other than the police being armed with guns. And then the solvency says the plan would not increase legitimacy because people want the police to have guns, or if it did increase legitimacy, it wouldn't increase it with very many people. Again, because the people who don't trust the police already aren't going to be convinced by a plan that's this small and doesn't really change the whole structure of policing or even get rid of the police. So the uniqueness and the solvency together, I think, are a pretty good argument that the affirmative doesn't really solve very much, doesn't do very much. And the impact is a good argument about why, if the affirmative did do something really substantial, it actually might be a bad thing, because too much police legitimacy would make it hard for politicians, lawyers, people in the community, individuals to hold the police accountable when they did bad things. So you probably can't say the uniqueness and solvency at the same time as you say the answers to the impact, but you should choose one or the other depending on which one you think is stronger. And personally, I think the impact answers are better because they provide a reason why doing the plan would make things worse. But it's okay if you disagree. It's okay if you want to tell a different story. You can choose the other option where you talk about uniqueness and solvency. Okay, just as a closing note, some things to remember. When you're the negative, you want to identify which advantage the affirmative is reading. So if they're reading the stopping gun violence advantage, you should not read the police legitimacy answers, right? Because you're answering something that they never argued. So there's no reason to read it. So make sure you're paying attention during the 1AC. Make sure you understand what argument they're making, the story they're telling, so that you can answer their argument and explain to the judge why their story doesn't make any sense. And then get answers when you're preparing for the debate. Get answers to that advantage, to both advantages, and have them ready to go. So that when you're in the debate and the other team stands up and they say, blah, 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 police legitimacy, you can say, all right, they're arguing police legitimacy. I have my 3 or 4 pieces of evidence ready. I have my story ready. I'm good to go for the 1NC. I'm ready to go, right? And then that way it'll make it super easy for you to know what you're arguing in the debate, how you're going to answer the affirmative, and how you can tell your story to the judge. So that's negative strategy on the case. I hope this makes a lot of sense and is really helpful. If you have any questions, you should always ask your partner and your coach. If they have questions, they'll ask me. I don't know if I'm going to be checking these videos or not. I guess if you have a question, you could post it in the comments and I might get back to you. But otherwise, enjoy preparing for your debate. Have a good debate. And I think if you follow this video and the other videos, you're going to have a really great time and you're going to be impressed with how well you argue this topic. So have fun. Enjoy.